Okay, and the final item of business is a members' business debate on motion 17428 in the name of Karen Adam on Thomas Blake Glover, Fraserburgh's international legacy. The debate will be concluded without any questions being put. I'd invite members wishing to participate to press the request to speak buttons. I call on Karen Adam to open the debate. Around 7 minutes. Ms Adam.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Tomorrow marks exactly 187 years since a boy was born in a coastal town in the northeast of Scotland in Fraserburgh, known fondly as the Broch. On the 6th of June 1838, that boy was born on Commerce Street, the son of the town's harbour master. His name was Thomas Blake Glover. I doubt anyone at that time could have imagined just how far that Fraserburgh boy would go, that one day he'd be honoured by the Emperor of Japan, that he'd transform entire industries and economies, and that his legacy would still live on today, not just in history books, but in the shared culture, education and innovation that continue to link Scotland and Japan. Before I continue, Presiding Officer, I would like to extend a warm welcome to our distinguished guests joining us in the gallery today. The Consul-General of Japan and Cultural Consul at the Consulate-General of Japan in Edinburgh. It is an honour to welcome our guests to Parliament and to nurture the international friendships that mean so much to Scotland. Just last week, I had the pleasure of meeting the Consul-General at the Japan Cross-Party Group, where I also met the Japanese Ambassador to the UK, His Excellency. It has been a week of Scottish-Japan connections. Presiding Officer, the scale of Glover's global impact is truly extraordinary. He has supported 5 young Japanese students to travel to Britain to study. These 5, called the Choshu 5, went on to help build modern Japan, from a Prime Minister shaping the Constitution to railway systems, modern engineering and infrastructure, reformed currency and finance, and one in particular made his mark on the education system, including introducing education for the deaf. And that connection brings this story very close to home for me. As many in the Chamber know, my father is deaf, and he is also a deaf historian. And about this time last year, he introduced me to Dr. Manako Yabe, a deaf Japanese academic and postdoctoral research associate at Heriot-Watt University, whose work focuses on deaf studies and communication technology. And I'm also delighted to welcome Dr. Yabe, who joins us in the gallery today. They had connected at a deaf history event in Edinburgh and began exploring historical links between Scotland and Japan. And it was during those conversations they had discovered that Thomas Blake Glover has supported the very group of scholars who helped introduce deaf education in Japan. My father, knowing the significance of Fraserburgh to me, invited me to meet him and Dr. Yabe there at the Glover Garden on Commerce Street, the very site of Glover's birthplace. The garden has been lovingly created and is maintained by the owner, Michael Menny, who welcomed us warmly and shared stories of his own visit to the Glover Garden in Nagasaki, where Glover's former home is now preserved, and it is visited by millions. In Japan, Glover is remembered, respected and celebrated. And after that visit and the conversations we had with Michael Menny, I thought, why not here? Why not do something in Fraserburgh? I began speaking with local community leaders, and before long a festival committee was formed as a branch of the Fraserburgh Rotary Club. Made up of passionate volunteers, there are people who have given their time, energy and hearts to create something truly special for the town that they love in an extraordinary short space of time. Although she's far too modest to take credit herself, I want to recognise Councillor Anne Bell, who has played a central role as chair of the committee, along with all of those involved. This Sunday, the 8th of June, we will come together for the first inaugural Thomas Blake Glover Festival. And this isn't just about looking back, it's about bringing people together to celebrate Fraserburgh's connection to the wider world and everything that we have to be proud of. There is so much talent and creativity in Fraserburgh. The afternoon programme features performances from amazing local talent, and it will also be a day of international friendship. We will be joined by several distinguished guests, including the Consul-General and Deputy CRO EMEA of the Mitsubishi Corporation, Ronnie Watt OBE, recipient of the Order of the Rising Sun, and Lady Saltoun. Presiding Officer, I fear trying to mention every person and group involved in case I leave someone out, but the full programme of the distinguished guests and the lists will be available online for anybody who wants to follow along with the celebrations. On the day, we're going to plant a cherry tree in Glover's memory, right there on the site of his birth. A living symbol of connection and growth, with the roots in the broch, just like Glover, but looking upwards to the rising sun and blossoming each year leading up to his birthday to remind us of our Japan connections. That connection continues in ways that feel almost poetic. If you stand at Fraserburgh Harbour, the very one where Glover's father once worked as a harbour master, and look out to sea, you'll see wind turbines, forming part of the Ocean Winds Murray East offshore wind project. Turbines with Mitsubishi, Lynx, and the Glover Company helped bring this into being. Fraserburgh is a town where people simply get on with it. They work very hard. It's a place with global reach and a thriving fishing industry. The people there continually recognise and act on their potential. There are plans to expand the harbour, a master plan for future growth, and there's a strong and growing campaign to bring back rail to connect Fraserburgh to Aberdeen. And these are the kinds of forward-looking projects that I believe would have resonated with Glover himself. He introduced Japan's first steam locomotive, he modernised shipbuilding, he supported education reform, he was a connector of people and ideas and a true visionary. And I believe he'd be proud of what's happening in Fraserburgh, not just because we're remembering him, but because we're building something worthy of the legacy that he left behind. It's about making sure that a boy born on Commerce Street 187 years ago isn't just remembered, but that he's celebrated. And through him, we remember what Fraserburgh has contributed to the world and what it still can. So I want to thank everyone who has helped make this happen. The Festival Committee, Fraserburgh Rotary Club, Michael Menny, Councillor Anne Bell, Dr Manako Yabe, and of course my father, who introduced me to the legacy of Thomas Blake Glover, a wee boy from the Broch. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms Adam. Can I add my welcome to the Consul-General as well? We've moved to the open debate, and I call first Tess White to be followed by Jackie Dunbar. Around 4 minutes. Ms White.
Konnichiwa. Konnichiwa. Presiding Officer, I thank Karen Adam for securing the time for today's Members' Business debate. Thomas Glover, as we've heard, was a truly remarkable man with roots that run deep in the northeast of Scotland. A strategist and an industrialist, he is lauded for his role, as we've heard, in establishing the Mitsubishi Corporation, a powerhouse of the Japanese Industrial Revolution. Known as the Scottish Samurai, Glover is venerated in Japan for his key contribution to industrialisation and modernisation, and it's why he was awarded the Order of the Rising Sun, an extraordinary accolade for a man hailing from the Broch. Glover, as we've heard, was born in Fraserburgh in 1838 on Commerce Street and educated in Aberdeen. Stonehaven, too, has a strong link to the man known as the Scottish Samurai. In 2021, pupils from Mill of Forest, Arduthy and Dunnottar primary schools worked with the Stonehaven Sea Cadets and Stonehaven Horizon Group to plant 120 cherry blossom trees in Mineral Park. The garden was dedicated to the memory of Glover, a living testament to his ingenuity and legacy. Part of the Sakura Cherry Tree project, the garden has joined more than 1,000 parks, gardens and schools across the UK in marking 150 years of Japan-UK friendship and the continued cooperation between our two nations. It was launched by the former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and former Conservative Prime Minister Theresa May in 2021. There are always strong community champions behind brilliant initiatives like this, and it was Aberdeenshire Councillor Wendy Agnew, working with local MP Andrew Bowie, who spearheaded the project and helped to see it through over a 4-year period. It has been enchanting residents and visitors ever since. Wendy would like to thank the Consul-General today and the whole of Japan for what she said is a very generous gift to Stonehaven. And she would like to invite the Japanese Consul General, on behalf of the community, to place a plaque in the garden where the blossoms are out in spring next year in Stonehaven. As we underline the importance of Thomas Blake Glover, we can also take the opportunity to think about so many Scots who have left Britain to start inspiring adventures on the other side of the world, and people like the Davidson family from Aberlemno near Brechin, who moved to Wisconsin in the USA and became the founders of Harley-Davidson Motor Company with Englishman Bill Harley. And there's David Dunbar Buick, the Arbroath-born plumber, who became an icon in the United States after founding the Buick Motor Company. Along with Thomas Glover, these individuals were the self-starters, the adventurers and visionaries, and their testament to the incredible spirit of the North East. Arigato. Arigato.
Thank you, Ms White. I now call Jackie Dunbar to be followed by Martin Whitfield. Around 4 minutes. Ms Dunbar.
Thank you, Presiding Officer, and can I congratulate my friend and colleague Karen Adam for securing today's members' debate on Thomas Blake Glover. There is a very long list of folk from Aberdeen, whether they were born there, grew up there or lived there later in life, that have helped shape the world as we know it today. We have a history of innovation, of world-leading engineering, of global influence, but we are absolutely dreadful at telling folk about it. We seem to not want to talk up our history or the folk who made it happen. And Thomas Blake Glover is probably the best example of this in Aberdeen. He is at least somewhat known and spoken about, although a great part of that is due to the work of the Mitsubishi Corporation and their kind donations that saw his parents' home in Bridge of Dawn in my Aberdeen Donside constituency turned into a museum. We have a man who helped shape Japan's history, from the role he played in their civil war, who helped them rebuild their navy, who introduced rail travel to Japan, and maybe one day we might even reintroduce rail service to his native Broch, as Karen Adam already alluded to, and who played important roles in the foundations of two internationally recognised brands, Mitsubishi and Kirin. He is a man who we should be talking about. The extraordinary life he lived lends itself to storytelling, but far too many folk haven't heard of him. And I'm hoping that today's debate will help more folk to hear and learn about Thomas Blake Glover. And if we can have success with him, then we can maybe move on to some of our city's 5 Nobel Prize winners, or the great minds that come from the King's and Marischal Colleges during the Scottish Enlightenment. But as I said, let's start with Thomas Blake Glover. Karen Adam has already spoken about so much of his life, and it certainly wasn't boring or uncontroversial. He was an immigrant, an immigrant to us. He was an arms dealer. He was a criminal due to the arms dealing, although he seems to have been forgiven as he only sold to the winning side and commissioned warships for Japan in shipyards in Aberdeen. He ran a coal mine. He was a pioneer of public transport. He created jobs, and he owned a brewery. So there's something there for everyone to have an opinion on. It's certainly not a life that deserves to be forgotten, and it's disappointing that Glover House, his parents' former home that I mentioned, is now sitting empty. It was bought by Mitsubishi in 1996, restored to what it would have looked like in the 1850s, and was given to the Grampian Japan Trust to run as a museum. It moved to being run by Aberdeen City Council in 2006, before it eventually closed in 2012 due to low visitor numbers and rising costs. I remember being given a tour and hosting Japanese dignitaries there back in the day when I had the privilege of being Deputy Provost of Aberdeen. Money has been spent maintaining and repairing it since, but 12 years later, the Council is still looking for a suitable purpose for this building, and the condition of it is slowly getting worse, as it needs to be lived in to survive, as is the case for all buildings. They decay much quicker when unused. Whatever form it takes, whether it's a museum or something else, we need to ensure Glover has a lasting and fitting legacy in Aberdeen. And as our city looks beyond oil and gas, he's probably an example to look to for someone who could help build new industries. Some of that may be tourism, in which case we have to get better at telling and marketing Thomas Blake Glover's story. Or it may be through entrepreneurship, and it's his spirit that we need to tap into. I've spoken about the past. Now the question is, what will the future be? So can I thank again Karen Adam for giving me a chance to talk about Thomas Blake Glover today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Dunbar. I now call Martin Whitfield to be followed by Kevin Stewart. Around 4 minutes, Mr Whitfield.
I'm very grateful, Deputy Presiding Officer. And can I, like others, thank Karen Adam for securing this actually phenomenally important debate on a day where perhaps its importance for members here should not have been overshadowed by events elsewhere. But can I also extend my welcome to the honourable guests that join us today. I had a lovely speech because I wanted to talk about the number of Scottish people, unfortunately mainly men, who emigrated abroad and are recognised for the fortunes that have been made or the developments that they did. And Jackie Dunbar allows me, of course, to mention James Paris Lee of Lee Enfield fame, the creator of the rifle, and the dubious, perhaps questionable, I think so well phrased by Jackie Dunbar to allow us to have an opinion on how these people operated, to Charles Lockhart, of course, who was one of the founders of Standard Oil. But actually, I was much more taken by the opening statement because actually, in the moment on the 6th of June in 1838, when the subject of our debate today was born, of course 6 weeks old on that day was John Muir, who was born in Dunbar. So while he was no doubt crying, no doubt mewling, no doubt being a challenging child to his mum, another hero came into the world. And we see so many similarities in the two stories. Someone who left as a child, who, where they grew up, actually shaped what they did in their future. In John Muir's case, it was, of course, being born in Dunbar and looking around at the East Lothian landscape as the third of 8 children, not the most important in the household, who ran riot and escaped and fell in love with nature, fell in love with landscape, and then, for other circumstances, travelled abroad, in this case, obviously, to America, where as he grew up, because of those memories, because of those experiences in childhood, and because, in his case, of his love for nature, he became known as John of the Mountains, the father of the national parks, the man who converted presidents to look at nature in a different way, a man who was able to shape the future of another country because of their enthusiasm, their skill, their passionate telling stories, to bring together an importance. And I think when I look at Dunbar High Street, where his birthplace is celebrated as a museum that is attended by school children across East Lothian and further afield, to keep it alive, to keep that history in place. We see perhaps an example that can be followed elsewhere by local authorities, by charities and by supporters from outside of the country, because much money has come from the US in respect of John Muir, to allow that story to live, so that perhaps a P5 can wander into what looks like an old-fashioned house, wander round, step out, and suddenly think, actually, no one can stop my future being what I want it to be, wherever it is and however it is made. And so, for that purpose, I think this debate today about Thomas Blake Glover, this debate that has allowed members across this chamber to look for their own heroes, and I hope some can find heroines across their regions, about why Scotland looking outwards is always so much more important than perhaps Scotland looking inwards, and to celebrate our friends across the world who come back here to find the history of people who are important in their history, and that we meet them, we greet them, we celebrate it, and we use those experiences to teach our young people there is genuinely nothing you cannot achieve if you're born in Scotland and you look up. I'm grateful, Deputy Presiding Officer.
Thank you, Mr Whitfield. Now call Kevin Stewart to be followed by Douglas Lumsden. Around 4 minutes, Mr Stewart.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. And I too would wish to congratulate Karen Adam in bringing this debate to the Chamber today. Thomas Blake Glover is often hailed as the Scottish samurai and was a quite remarkable figure who played an immense role in the modernisation of Japan during the 19th century. And as Ms Adam has already pointed out, Thomas Blake Glover was born in Fraserburgh, but his family moved to Aberdeen in 1851 when his father became the chief coastguard in the area. And Thomas received part of his education at the Channery House School in Old Aberdeen. After leaving school, he embarked in a career with the Jardine Matheson Company, which at that point was a major trading company, and that took him to Shanghai in 1857. And 2 years later, Glover made the move to Nagasaki in Japan, a nation that was then in a period of isolation, but was about to see some dramatic change. Initially, Thomas Blake Glover's presence was for Jardine Matheson, trading primarily in Japanese green tea. However, his drive soon led him to found his own firm, and we have heard of some of the immense contributions that he has made from other speakers. In terms of shipbuilding, he was the man who helped establish Japan's first modern slip dock in Nagasaki, a facility that was crucial for ship repair. He later sold his share in that to the Japanese government, which subsequently leased it to Mitsubishi, marking a foundational step for the corporation. And he also helped commission several warships for the Imperial Japanese Navy from shipyards in Aberdeen, including the Josho Maru, which later became the Ryoju Maru, which was launched in 1869. As Jackie Dunbar has mentioned, he was involved in mining, opening a coal mine at Hishima Island and introducing modern mining techniques. He was responsible for introducing the first steam locomotive, the Iron Duke, to Japan in 1865, which led to folks seeing the potential of railway transportation, something that Japan has truly grasped with its railway network today. And he also, as has already been mentioned, established a brewery, the Kirin Brewery. And it is said, also I believe it's an urban myth, that the creature's moustache on Kirin beer's labels is a tribute to Glover's own prominent facial hair. True or not, I don't know. An immense contribution for Japan and its links with the northeast of Scotland also led to much trade between the northeast and Japan, including the export from Aberdeen of the world-renowned Crombie cloth. And that trading network has to be celebrated, in my humble opinion. I do think that we need to do more to celebrate Thomas Blake Glover. And like Jackie Dunbar, I hope that more can be done to renovate Thomas Blake Glover House in Aberdeen and to make that a place where folks from the northeast, from Japan and elsewhere can visit and learn about the fabulous Thomas Blake Glover.
Thank you, Mr Stewart. And now come to the final speaker in the open debate, Douglas Lumsden, around 4 minutes.
Thank you, Presiding Officer, and can I congratulate Karen Adam on securing the debate, and also thank her for educating us more about Thomas Blake Glover. Because today's debate gives us an opportunity to celebrate someone from the North East who was probably more famous outside the North East than in it, and that's a point that Jackie Dunbar had made. It also gives us an opportunity to celebrate Scotland's strong links with Japan, links that I witnessed firsthand when I was leader of Aberdeen City Council. Aberdeen signed a memo of understanding with Kobe in Japan in 2019, strengthen links between the cities. And I'm wearing my Kobe tartan tie today, a gift I received when a delegation came to visit Aberdeen to sign the agreement. I also did find out it's not just tartan that we have in common, but the love of whisky was something that I learned about at that time also. And it was when I was a councillor that I became aware of Thomas Blake Glover and the impact he had and how important a role he played in the industrialisation of Japan, and how the council owned Glover House in Bridge of Dawn that we've heard about, a home that had been used by the Glover family. And I remember the conversations with Richard Sweetnam, a council officer, who was sadly taken from us too young, about how big a deal Glover was and how, as a city, we should be making more of a deal of him, and if there was an opportunity for tourism, celebrating the person. And that was something that was shared by all parties within Aberdeen City Council. We didn't often agree, but we did agree on Glover. Then the then Lord Provost, Barney Crockett, was also heavily involved with Mitsubishi to see if there was a partnership we could have to utilise the Glover House in Bridge of Dawn. And I seem to remember Martin Gilbert and Aberdeen Asset were also involved in that process. And it is regret that, as my time as a councillor, we couldn't come up with a sustainable plan on what could we do with Glover House. We were working with Aberdeen University and Mitsubishi, and the plan was that part of Glover House would be a museum celebrating Glover, and part of the house would be used for Japanese students attending Aberdeen University to live in while they were in the city studying. But regrettably, that plan fell through when COVID struck, and I don't believe any plan has come forward since then. And that's a real shame. I've visited Glover House myself, along with a delegation from Kobe in 2019, and it'd be sad to see that house fall into further disrepair. It is part of the history of the North East and should be protected, and hopefully a sustainable future can be found for the house. And my lasting memory from the visit was the friendliness of our Japanese guests, the warmth, the kindness, the interest in Glover was something that will stay with me, and it made me determined to visit Japan in the near future. And when I am there, hopefully I will visit the Thomas Blake Glover statue in Nagasaki to pay my respect to the man from the North East that made such a huge impact in Japan. So I thank Karen Adam once again for bringing this debate to Parliament, and I wish the organisers of the Thomas Blake Glover Festival every success for the upcoming event. Thank you, Presiding Officer.
Thank you, Mr Lumsden. I now invite Fiona Hislop to respond to the debate. Cabinet Secretary, around 7 minutes.
Thank you, Presiding Officer, and I'd like to thank all members who have taken part in this afternoon's debate, and Karen Adam for bringing forward this motion, and I also extend my welcome to our honourable visitors. Scotland's relationship with Japan is one that has endured for centuries and continues to grow from strength to strength. Indeed, I've had the pleasure, when I held the position of Cabinet Secretary for External Affairs, to promote Scotland's economy and other interests on 3 visits to Japan over my 11 years in that portfolio. And it is a relationship that is marked by a deep mutual respect and admiration for one another's traditions and cultures, as well as eagerness to promote further collaboration wherever possible. Just last week, the First Minister hosted Japan's ambassador to the UK at Bute House to recognise the close relationship Scotland and Japan share. And our shared history is marked by numerous pioneers who continue to have a significant impact on our relations to this current day. Thomas Blake Glover is rightly seen as someone who has great significance in the development of modern Japan, and his name is synonymous with the early links between Japan and Scotland. And he played a pivotal role in the establishment of Mitsubishi Corporation, helping develop its shipbuilding operations. And Mitsubishi has gone on to become one of Japan's largest trading companies, employing over 60,000 people. And his legacy lives on today in both nations. And I congratulate Karen Adams' father for helping us rediscover that deaf education connection between Scotland and Japan. The Glover House and Garden that sits in Nagasaki allows visitors to learn about Glover's life and influence on Japan, including the technologies he helped advance, with up to 2 million people visiting annually. And this ensures that his history is not forgotten there. Presiding Officer, in 2015, I was lucky enough to visit this marvellous garden on a visit to Japan, where I also visited the wider Nagasaki industrial area and Mitsubishi shipbuilding, which is still there. I was given the honour of a tour of the Thomas Blake Glover House by trustees. And interestingly, on the wall, I saw a calligraphy that had been framed, and I asked what the translation was. And it said, "The ocean is a field." Now, that was obviously something that meant something to Thomas Blake Glover at the time in terms of trading and in terms of shipbuilding. But of course, if you look at Fraserburgh, the connections of the ocean as a field in terms of fishing, or indeed its future opportunities with the sea, I think also is an interesting connection. During my visit, I presented Japanese stakeholders with 3D digital models of the Nagasaki industrial site, scanned as part of the Scottish 10 project, a joint collaboration between Historic Environment Scotland and the Glasgow School of Art. And this scanned data helped conserve a site which is of major significance to Thomas Blake Glover and other prominent Scots present in Japan in the 19th century, and was influential in securing its UNESCO World Heritage Site status for Japan. So, of course, in Fraserburgh, as we've now heard, we now have the Glover Garden, which acts as a memorial to mark his birthplace and is a demonstration of the connection and friendship between Scotland and Japan. And as we've heard, as part of this memorial, the inaugural Thomas Blake Glover Festival is to take place on the 8th of June, marking his contribution to both nations. And of course, Thomas Glover's legacy even transcends his industrial ventures. A series of Japanese-Scotch whisky fusions have been created and named after him to honour his achievements, and it's very fitting to see him memorialised through Scotland's national drink. Thomas Blake Glover was a true pioneer, and it's only right that he's remembered in Scotland as he is in Japan. And reflecting on the remarks of Jackie Barr and also of Miss Lumsden, I think there's an issue about what happens with the Thomas Blake Glover House in Aberdeen, and I reflect the opportunity that may have existed pre-COVID for Japanese students to be based there. And of course, the Nippon Foundation are encouraging students and supporting students to study in Scotland, and perhaps there may be avenues there that can be explored. Presiding Officer, I firmly believe that as a friendly, open and outward-looking nation, Scotland should always encourage and explore connections with other nations, as Martin Whitfield pointed out in his thoughtful speech. Thomas Blake Glover's life and legacy is a prime example of the impact Scottish individuals and businesses can have abroad. And the best tribute, as Karen Adams states, is using it to build for the future. Scotland's Scottish Connections Framework, launched in 2023, sets out our ambitions to expand our relationships with and between Scotland's international communities. And we're rightly proud of our long history of intellectual, cultural and economic exchange. Scotland's diaspora and our Scottish connections are an extension of Scotland itself. The Scottish Government welcomes the development of the Glover Garden in Fraserburgh, an initiative which honours someone who made a significant contribution to the development of Japan. And this will serve as a reminder of that long-standing connection between Scotland and Japan, and as a symbol of our lasting friendship. So on behalf of the Scottish Government, I wish the organisers well in both developing but now in delivering the first Thomas Blake Glover Festival, and I hope the day is a great success. And I thank the local constituency MSP Karen Adam for bringing this motion in debate to our national parliament.
Thank you, Cabinet Secretary. That concludes the debate, and I close this meeting of Parliament.